What is the biggest problem the Buccaneers face going up against the Cowboys this week? And speculation is heating up about the possible return of Ryan Jensen. Let's go.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome to the Locked On Bucs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And we thank you for making us your first listen or view of the day. I am James Yarcho, deputy editor of SB Nation's BucsNation.com, finally reunited with my buddy Evan Klosky of 10 Tampa Bay. Of course, you can check him out on 10 Tampa Bay and at 10tampabay.com. And make sure you're following everything on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarko_Bucs, and at eKlosky WTSP. Again, we thank you for making us your first listen or view of the day. Today's episode of Locked On Bucs is presented by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Just pick 2 to 5 players, and if they will score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. The biggest thing to me, Evan Klosky, coming into this weekend is the status of Ryan Jensen, especially after seeing Robert Hainsey leave the Falcons game with that hamstring injury. He was not pleased that he was leaving the game. It seemed like we haven't gotten official word on the severity, but it seemed like it was not pretty. But I have been saying for weeks that all you have to do is get into the tournament, and you should get Ryan Jensen back. The Bucs got into the tournament. Are they going to get Ryan Jensen back? Well, Tom Brady decided to say on his podcast that the Bucs will, quote, be as healthy as they have been all year. And that can be interpreted one of two ways. They're either going to be healthier than they've been all year, or he's saying be as healthy as they've been all year, meaning we're still all reeling and banged up and hurt. But then on Tuesday, the Buccaneers social media team, shout out Jill Beckman, they do a fantastic job over there. They drop a hype video narrated by Tom Brady. Sure enough, there's a quick snippet of Ryan Jensen in pads practicing. I don't think you put that in just as a filler. There's about 8 billion different half-second clips that you can use in that hype video, but Ryan Jensen is put in there. So is that a positive sign or merely a coincidence? Evan, your thoughts on the potential return of Ryan Jensen?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to read, and you mentioned it, like the Bucs social media team, they're fantastic, all of them. I don't want to be putting, Jill or whoever's putting the video together as the ones trying to break that Ryan Jensen news. I was talking to a friend recently. I've never, in my 10 plus years in the industry, I've never found a situation where a team has safeguarded information as well as the Buccaneers have with Ryan Jensen. It is unbelievable. It doesn't matter how tapped in the most tapped in people are. They don't know. Don't know. But the tea leaves have been a little bit pessimistic on his return for this weekend. And again, just reading tea leaves, mostly because, it is a tall order to return and play a full game after not, especially in the trenches, coming off of that injury, so significant to knock you out for 5 to 6 months and play the entire time. I would think at minimum you're going to at least have to timeshare him. Now I put an asterisk there because Ryan Jensen is a freak. I mean, this guy's pain threshold is just different. Like he played all of last year with all sorts of injuries that should have knocked him out for time, and he gutted through it. So he's built different. We know that. And that leaves the door open for any optimism. I'm not closing that door at all. We do know that the Buccaneers have to activate him at the end of this week. That it's either that or he's done for the year. So I do expect him to be activated before Monday, probably up against that timetable, as far possible as it goes. And that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to play, but he's got to get activated to at least have that shot. So I'm not fully there yet with Jensen, mostly because it is a tall order to get back. But the Hainsey injury certainly adds intrigue to everything, because without Hainsey, without Jensen, you got some problems, because now you're moving Leverett to center. You're bringing Luke back into the guard position, which he's lost confidence throughout this entire year, which is sad to see. And now you got some problems against a team that is, one of, if not the best team at creating pressures in the NFL.
Yeah, it certainly puts a damper on the optimism for the result of the game, if that is indeed the case. And that Todd Bowles had said that Hainsey wasn't scheduled for an MRI, but based on how severe the team doctors felt it was, he might get an MRI. Said that Ryan Jensen is the status quo, but a lot of that's going to be coach speak, gamesmanship, however you want to do it, because it's probably best to keep the Cowboys in the dark for as long as possible, given the fact that you could be going up against an All-Pro, or you could be going up against the third stringer. There's, you have no idea what you're going to get. And really, if Jensen doesn't go, if Hainsey doesn't go, the Bucs may not be going past this weekend, because that's a whole lot of shifting around and not the right team to have to do that against. No. And I would say the only one that would be worse than the Cowboys would be having to face the 49ers in that kind of situation.
Yeah, and I do want to mention, though, that the team is going to be as healthy as they have been the entire season, right? We expect all the wide receivers to be on the field. Mm-hmm. We expect the entire defense to be intact, which we haven't seen in forever. I mean, think about it. We're going to have Jamel Dean and Carlton Davis on the field together. I think you have to go back to Munich for the last time that happened.
Could be.
I think it was something like that. So, and you have your safeties. So I imagine Todd Bowles is going to have his full array defensively, which is what they had week one. And we know how that performance went. We know how the performance went week two, when they had most of their defensive players. Akeem Hicks was lost halfway through that contest. And then, attrition starts to happen. So, I do want you to be optimistic at home, understanding you're going to get the best version of the Buccaneers, assuming that Hainsey at minimum is playing. Again, I leave that. There is going to be that qualifier throughout all this talk that some of the things that I say, if Hainsey is out, it is going to affect how I view the game plan, because now Tom Brady can't sit in the pocket to exploit the weak secondary of the Cowboys, their corners. Outside of Trayvon Diggs, you just attack the other side, and that's money. It has been horrific on the other side of the field for the Cowboys. And if you can't get these go routes to just blow past them, which is what other teams have been doing to succeed, then you're really kind of falling into their strengths. So, and without the O-line help to give them some time, like we saw against the Panthers, then Tom Brady's going to be Mr. Fidgety again. So,
all right. Well, we are going to dive more into that matchup coming up in just a moment. But first, go to TurboTax and don't do your own taxes. Meet with an expert who will do them for you. TurboTax experts can relieve you from the stress of taxes and file for you so you can do not taxes. Use your time to focus on things that are not taxes. Unpack a moving box of not taxes. Taste not taxes. Sing not taxes a lullaby. Hope not taxes sleeps through the night. Grab a saddle and ride not taxes into the sunset.
Devin White style.
Yeah, that's right. Get Live 45 Stables. With TurboTax, an expert will do your taxes from start to finish, ensuring your taxes are done right so you can relax. It feels good to be done with your taxes, doesn't it? Come to TurboTax and don't do your taxes. Visit TurboTax.com to learn more. Intuit TurboTax, full service products only. Video meeting while expert does your taxes required. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. I am really excited about our new partner and sponsor of today's episode, the mobile game Ultimate Football GM. Have you ever dreamed of becoming an NFL GM and managing your football franchise? Well, your dream can come true, and this game is for you. Manage every strategic aspect of your team, play through the season, and lead your team to glory. You're responsible for hiring the right coaches and coordinators, trading players, making draft picks, navigating your franchise through free agency and the draft, all the ups and downs of a season, all of this in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Football GM is completely free and playable offline. Play on the go as you want to, when you want to. The game is super easy to navigate. It's fun to play and offers challenges you won't get anywhere else. Locked On Bucs listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On, all caps, all one word. Use Locked On, all caps, all one word, in the game store. So download the game. Just visit ultimate-gm.com or look it up in the app stores. That's ultimate-gm.com. Ultimate Football GM. Start your dynasty today. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listen or view every day. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On NFL and get daily conversations on the biggest NFL stories. Locked On NFL, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. So, Evan, let's take a look at a semi-dangerous Dallas Cowboys team. The defense is solid. They've been solid all year. The offense can put up points in a hurry. They have an arsenal of weapons. You have the emergence of Tony Pollard, who is the best running back on that football team, whether Jerry Jones wants to admit it or not. But taking a look at this team, what to you is the toughest part of this matchup for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Micah Parsons, easily. I mean, it's like he is the ultimate game wrecker. You know, you talk about him, Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa is going to be coming back for the Chargers. Look for him to do some of those things. There are players in the National Football League defensively who absolutely changed the game plan in a big way. And for the Buccaneers to limit Micah Parsons with an offensive line that has struggled throughout the season, that is a tall order. They did a pretty good job week one, and Parsons still had 2 big sacks. I think both in the red zone on top of that. So,
and he broke Donovan Smith.
Yeah, he literally broke Donovan Smith. So yes. That was the beginning of the end for him this season. Though Donnie is going to be coming back, which is huge. Giving him a lot of flack this season, but everyone's going to be a lot happier to see him out there versus alternative options. I'll say that. But limiting him, you can't stop him. Limiting him and figuring out ways to make sure that Brady doesn't get rocked upside the head by this guy is going to be very difficult. So I think, especially because Brady's one of the worst quarterbacks this season against pressure. So if he's feeling it, he's mechanics are off, sales throws. I mean, go watch the Niners game, some of that Saints game, to the one in Ray J, to really understand what he looks like when people are in his grill. So, that is top of the board.
Well, at the same time, the Cowboys can also be their absolute worst enemy, especially if we see the same Dak Prescott that we saw last week against the Manders. So what advantage does Tampa have in this game that could lead them to a victory? Is it as simple as Dallas is wearing their blue jerseys, where they haven't won a playoff game in those jerseys since they imploded and lost wearing the blue jerseys in Super Bowl V to the Colts?
Yeah, whatever, the jerseys. I know, it's so funny.
The blue jersey jinx is real, dang it.
I want to also mention, I told you this beforehand, that the Cowboys are 1-4 on grass fields away from home. So that's also just like a little, I mean, it seems silly, but it makes sense for a team that's built on speed, that's not going to be as fast of a track for them from what they're used to.
Come on,
but,
rain.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a beautiful day, like 72, picture perfect. So I will say that the number one thing that the Buccaneers have for them is they should be fully healthy defensively, and that means that I expect outside of Shaq Barrett, I should say, who did play week 1, I expect them to stuff the run. And this is a team that averages 120 yards, 121 yards per game. And if they can't get the ground game going, if Pollard and Zeke aren't doing things to move the chains, well, now you're forcing Dak to really carry the team. And that's what happened week 1. And he wasn't doing diddly-poo until he got ultimately injured late in that contest. But he looked uncomfortable the entire contest. So I think the number one thing that the Bucs have going for them is that you're going to have Vita Vea and Akeem Hicks run stuff in that hole all night. And as long as the Buccaneers can play some semblance of good third down defense, which always seems to be their Achilles heel, I think that forcing the Cowboys to be one-dimensional in the pass is going to be to their benefit, because I also believe they have the players in the secondary to limit CeeDee Lamb, who, by the way, had his worst performance against the Buccaneers in week 1 to just 2 catches for, I think, 29 yards.
Yeah, well, and before Carlton missed a couple of games, he did a great job against Jamar Chase when they played the Bengals. He did a great job against DeAndre Hopkins, who is apparently going on the trade block. And yeah, he did a great job against CeeDee Lamb back in week 1. So getting him back is going to be massive. Couple of other random numbers to throw out. We've talked about the blue jerseys. We've talked about the grass fields. Bucs are 5-1 this season when Vita Vea and Akeem Hicks played more than 50% of snaps together in a game. And oh, by the way, Tom Brady 7-0 against the Dallas Cowboys.
There's that too. Yeah. He's undefeated against 4 teams. 3 of them are in the playoffs. The Buccaneers, the Vikings, and the Cowboys. The other one, the Patriots at 1-0.
He's still undefeated against the Falcons.
Yeah, I know. It's
in our like actual consciousness and common sense. Tom Brady's undefeated.
Yeah, I mean, it was 17-10 at halftime, and then literally it was the A squad versus the B squad. So, not too. But I will say very quickly, when Brady was in the game and what we saw from the first half, like, let's not forget, the Buccaneers scored 17 points in the first half against the Falcons. Like, that's a lot of points for them in the first half. So, I mean, going off of Carolina, what we saw against the Falcons, what we saw in the first half against Cincinnati, the Cardinals game was a mess. But there are some things to be optimistic about, and I don't think that Dan Quinn is going to be playing the shell type coverage that the Cardinals did to really force the Bucs to just be dumped down boring, which is what they did, and literally could have just Lenny and Rachaad White could have picked up 1,000,000 yards that game if Brady so chose to just do that every single time. I think you're going to see Dan Quinn dial up a lot of pressure because he knows his secondary is not great, and just hope they get home. If you can get home once out of 3 times, that's a negative play, and now you're back in business. So I think you're going to see a lot of pressures, and if the O-line can hold up to that pressure just a few times, Brady can then exploit them with Mike Evans deep, and I think that's where you get the splash plays, similar to what we saw Julio Jones do in the week 1 matchup. Very similar concept with those go balls, man on man, and just I think that is the winning formula for the Bucs.
All right, well, we are going to get into predictions coming up in just a moment, but first, this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they will score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. You're not competing against other people. It's just you against the projections available, and Prize Picks offers projections on any sport you can watch. NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, men's and women's college basketball, soccer, WNBA, esports, MMA, boxing, Euro basketball, cricket, and even more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. Safe and fast withdrawals, currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. If you deposit 100, PrizePicks will give you 100. You deposit 50, PrizePicks is giving you 50. You just have to remember to use that promo code Locked On, all one word, at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. Wrapping things up here on a WTSP Wednesday edition of the Locked On Bucs podcast. Make sure you come back tomorrow. David will be back. He will be doing the crossover Thursday episode. Not sure which of the Locked On Cowboys hosts or if it's going to be both that he will be speaking with. Of course, they will be guaranteeing Cowboys victories and CeeDee Lamb explosions like they did ahead of week one. That's neither here nor there. David will set them straight and we will move on. Real quick, Evan, before we get to your predictions, I want to ask you, do you know the historical significance of that Super Bowl V game between the Colts and Cowboys that started this blue jersey jinx that I keep referencing?
No, explain it.
That is the only Super Bowl to ever have an MVP from the losing team. The MVP of that game was linebacker Chuck Howley of the Dallas Cowboys. The Baltimore Colts won that game 16-13.
It's a good fun fact.
It is. It is. My dad, absolutely jammed that information into my brain as a small child because my dad grew up a Cowboys fan until Jerry Jones bought the team. And then he said, never, ever again, I want that man to suffer. So with that, let's go over to predictions. We're talking about players. We're talking about bold predictions. We're talking about score predictions. So, Evan, let's kick things off. Who is your predictive player of the game?
Give me Mikey Evans, baby. I think that there's going to be a lot of advantageous coverages for the Buccaneers against the Cowboys because what Dallas has to do to really mitigate some of the problems in the secondary, I think ultimately opens up Mike. And to me, Trayvon Diggs, while he is a ball hawk and a phenomenal player, I think his coverage skills are a bit overrated because of just what he can do with the turnovers. Mm-hmm. So I got Mikey over one bill and at least a touchdown. I think he's going to keep riding hot, and Brady and him are finding that rhythm again at the right time.
Well, I mean, he had the only touchdown in week one. No reason why he shouldn't get another one, at least one more in this one. What is your bold prediction?
My bold prediction, I hope this is bold enough because the Cowboys run the ball for 121 yards per game. The Buccaneers will hold them to less than 60. I'll even make it a little bolder. I'll say less than 50. I think it is going. The Cowboys are going to try to I think they're going to know entering this matchup that running the ball ain't going to work. So I would imagine they're going to try to utilize Tony Pollard in space a little bit more and make him a little bit Rashad Whitey for everybody who watched him this season. You know, I think that you would hope if you're a Buccaneers fan that Rashad White can turn into a bigger Tony Pollard. But yeah, that's going to be my bold prediction. As my backup option also is holding CeeDee Lamb to 40 yards or less. He might get some junk time at the end, which, some fourth quarter yardage. But for, the first three quarters, I'll say he'll be less than 40 yards.
Okay. Yeah. Now, in week one, the Bucs held the Cowboys to 71 rushing yards. Zeke had 52, Dak had 11, and Tony Pollard had 8. So even bolder to drop it below 50.
That's right. I'll do that. I'll do extra bold.
Hey, that is what we are here for, is the extra bold, the extra spicy hot takes. Evan, it's a whole new season. Everybody's 0-0. You could throw the 8-9 record out the window. It doesn't matter anymore. So, are the Bucs starting things off 1-0 against the Cowboys for the second time this year? Or do you see the Cowboys, I would say, pulling off the upset, but they're actually favored on the road? Who wins this game and what's the score?
Oh, I have an upset, all right. But it is the Buccaneers because they're not favored in this game. Look, I shoot it to you straight. I ain't no homer by any means. But objectively speaking, with the Buccaneers home, in a situation it's only happened, if we ignore the 1982 strike, situation it's only happened 3 other times. 2 of those teams have won outright in those matchups. The Buccaneers match up well with Dallas, especially in their own house on grass. Not to mention the Cowboys the fan base is turning on them. They're feeling the pressure. And maybe Mike McCarthy and company were overlooking the Commanders to focus more on Tampa Bay. That would be my optimistic look if I was on the Dallas side of things. But let's talk about the defenses that Dak Prescott has faced since returning from that thumb injury when he played the Buccaneers. Detroit, ranked 28th. Chicago, 32nd. Green Bay, 17th. Minnesota, 30th. The Giants, 18th. Indianapolis, 29th. Houston, 27th. Jacksonville, 12, Philly 8, Tennessee 15, Washington 7. So this past month has been top 15 defenses only. From 5 of 11 of those games have been bottom 5 defenses. But if you go to Jacksonville, Philly, Tennessee, those 3 games where they had a pretty decent total against those squads, they also forced 9 total turnovers. So really, like, the Buccaneers just have to, like, I don't care if you make this game boring and people are yelling at you. You cannot turn the ball over. Mm-hmm. That is where the offense truly thrives. They'll get the points off turnovers. They'll flip it around on you. But when you watch the Commanders and what that defense looked like, it's going to be a similar unit without maybe the as much as the pass rushing options. It's going to be a stingy unit with tons of different blitzes thrown at you. Todd Bowles is going to be in his bag, which he hasn't been able to be in a while because of the injuries. Remember last year in the playoffs, what they were able to kind of do. And, they had some continuity issues because literally everybody came back at once for that Rams game. A lot of these players played most of the season. Only like Logan Ryan and Akeem Hicks missed significant time to the point where getting them back in the fold is going to be weird and mess up things. So long answer to a short answer that's really necessary. 23-18 Buccaneers upset, and they will be I might not be as optimistic the next time around we talk.
Yeah, we'll have to see how all of this shakes out. I mean, if all of the higher seeds win, then Tampa would be heading to Philadelphia, which has not been kind to them in the past.
They got a pretty good story back there in Philly. I would rather play Philly than the Niners. I will tell you that right now.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That's tough.
Philly, the Eagles are kind of banged up. Like they're fighting through some things, and you played them twice last year. You understand the bones of what they do. Look, you're going to be the underdog by like at least 6 points. So don't misread this as to like, oh, Buccaneers can, like, they're going to be underdogs, and I'm probably not going to pick them. But on paper, that Niners defense is just so freaking elite, it's and the Buccaneers offense is so bad that I don't know how you're going to generate 2 touchdowns against that team. Like, it literally took Russell Gage to get the luckiest touchdown in the world to actually score against that defense in the game they got throttled. I don't think the defense would be as bad against Brock Purdy the second time around. That game's not going to be 35-7 again. But offensively speaking, Tom Brady is going to be woof. And that's just because of the problems that unit presents. So, to me, I would rather face the Eagles and just pray that Jalen Hurts is more banged up than what the Eagles are leading on with him playing last week, and use that to your advantage. But either which way, get through this week, and we'll talk it. We'll talk it all through next week.
We'll cross that bridge if and when it comes. But tell me, I've already said it about the season. Tell me it wouldn't be the most Tom Brady thing ever to win the division with a losing record, win the Super Bowl. Tell me it wouldn't be the most Tom Brady thing ever to go back home again this year and just absolutely lay it on.
I'd love to win a lottery too. Let's just, take it one day at a time.
That's right. But focus on the Cowboys first. You can worry about anything else after that. With that, we are going to get out of here. We want to thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listen or view of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you the local insights you love to the national spotlight with daily conversations on the biggest NFL stories. Locked On NFL, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. As I mentioned, David will be back tomorrow with a crossover Thursday episode. In the meantime, make sure you're checking everything that Evan is doing out over on 10 Tampa Bay and at 10tampabay.com. Check out my work over at bucksnation.com. Follow everything on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at @Yarcho_Bucs, and at E. Klosky. I almost did the David Harrison one again, at E. Klosky WTSP. Follow David at D Harrison.
Yeah, why not?
82. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. And we thank you so much for joining us right here at Locked On Bucs.